Hello boys and girls, today we're going to read Mr. Mean by Roger Hargreaves. Are you ready? Mr. Mean lived up to his name. He lived in what could have been a nice house but wasn't. He never painted it or mended the windows or repaired the roof. There's Mr. Mean's house with the broken tiles and the broken windows. Inside it was the same. No carpets, no curtains, no pictures, no fires. And Mr. Mean was so mean he made his furniture out of old orange boxes and then complained about the price of nails. Imagine being that mean. Why, he was so mean, do you know what he gave his brother for Christmas last year? A piece of coal. Now that's mean. There's Mr. Mean in his mean looking house. It wasn't as if Mr. Mean didn't have any money. Oh no. He had lots of money, and he kept it all hidden in a box, which he kept in the kitchen. Every evening, he'd sit there counting it like it was the only thing Mr. Mean liked doing, counting his money. But would he spend it? Oh dear me, no. Not old Meanie, not if he could help it. There's Mr. Meanie counting his money. One day, Mr. Mean was sitting in his gloomy kitchen having a gloomy meal. He only ever had one meal a day, and that day he was having a cup of water and a piece of bread which was 3 weeks old. Suddenly, he was interrupted by a knock at the door. "Drat," he said, because he didn't like people. Drat and bother. He opened the door, and there on his doorstep stood a wizard, a rather fat wizard. There's the fat wizard with his magical wand and his hat. "Hello," said the wizard. "I wonder if, by any chance, as it's such a warm day, you could possibly, if it's not too much trouble, be as kind as to, if it's not inconvenient, perhaps, as I'm very thirsty, provide me with, do you think, a glass, if it's not too much to ask, of water, please." He was a very wordy wizard. "No," replied Mr. Mean rudely and shut the door in his face, and then went back into his kitchen to finish his meagre meal. There's the wizard, and there's Mr. Mean slamming the door in the wizard's face. But there, standing in front of him, was a wizard. "How did you get in?" gasped Mr. Mean. "Well," replied the wizard, "it was by, how should I put it? I just, well, you know, waved the old what's-his-name, magic wand, don't you know, and, well, here I am, if you know what I mean." "You must be very poor," he remarked kindly, looking around. "Oh, yes, I am," lied Mr. Mean. "Then perhaps I can help you," said the wizard, pulling up a box to sit down on. There's Mr. Mean talking to the wizard. The box didn't move, so the wizard pulled it harder, and this time it did move. In fact, it tipped up and spilled all Mr. Mean's money all over the floor. There's the money spilling. Oh, gosh. "Well, well, well," exclaimed the wizard, eyeing the money rolling all over the kitchen floor. "Well, well, 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 well. It would appear to me," he continued, "that you, sir, are an old meanie." Mr. Mean didn't hear him. He was too busy scrambling over the floor trying to pick up his money. "And meanies," added the wizard, "need to be taught a lesson." So saying, he waved his magic wand. Ooh. There's Mr. Mean picking up the coins, and there's the wizard waving his magic wand. All the money turned into potatoes. Potatoes! Poor Mr. Mean. Oh dear me," he wailed. "Please turn my money back into money. Oh, please, please, please," he begged. "Perhaps," replied the wizard, "but, on the other hand, taking all things into account, by and large, things being what they are, on the face of it, perhaps not." There's Mr. Mean and his potatoes. Oh, jeez. However, continued the worthy wizard, if you make a solemn promise never to be mean again, I will turn your money back into money. But, he added sternly, if you are ever mean again, then it's, how can I put it, then it's potatoes for you, my lad, if not other vegetables as well. Then the wizard had the glass of water he came for in the first place, except it was a cup of water because Mr. Mean didn't have any glasses. Then, with another wave of his wand, he turned the potatoes back into money, and another wave of his wand made himself disappear. Stupid wizard, muttered Mr. Mean, picking up all his money. There's the wizard, casting his magic spells. The following day, Mr. Mean decided to go to walk to town. He never took the bus because that costs money. On the way, he met an old washerwoman carrying an enormous bundle of washing. Please, kind sir, she asked, could you possibly help me carry this washing? It's so heavy. No, replied Mr. Mean. It's your washing. You carry it. But as soon as he said that, he felt a tingling in his nose. There's Mr. Mean talking to the washerwoman. Mr. Mean's nose turned into a carrot. Oh no, he gasped. The old washerwoman chuckled, and then Mr. Mean remembered the wizard's words. Yes, yes, he cried in a panic. Of course I'll help you. And he carried the huge bundle of washing to where the old washerwoman wanted. And the carrot turned back into a nose, and off he went. The old washerwoman chuckled again and turned back into the wizard. It had been him all along. There's Mr. Mean with a carrot for the nose. On his way into town, Mr. Mean passed by a cottage garden. In the garden, there was an old man chopping wood. He saw Mr. Mean going past and called out, Excuse me, he called. Could you give me an old man a bit of a hand, young fellow, me lad? No, replied Mr. Mean, it's your wood, you chop it. But as soon as the words had passed his lips, guess what happened? His ears turned into tomatoes. Oh no, he gasped. The old man chuckled, and Mr. Mean remembered the wizard's words. Yes, yes, he cried, of course I'll give you a hand. And he chopped and chopped until all the wood was cut. And the tomatoes turned back into ears, and off he went. The old man chuckled again and turned back into the wizard. He was teaching Mr. Mean a lesson, just as he'd promised. There's Mr. Mean with tomatoes for ears. Eventually, Mr. Mean arrived in the town. There was a little boy crying because his ball had got stuck on top of a wall. Please, sir, cried the boy, please, sir, could you reach my ball down for me? No, retorted Mr. Mean, it's your ball, you... Then he stopped. There was a funny tingling feeling in his feet. Yes, yes, he said hurriedly, of course I will. And he reached up and passed the ball to the boy and went on his way, looking anxiously at his feet. The little boy stopped crying and turned into the wizard. I think, he said to himself, I think that Mr. Mean, by and large, is beginning, if I'm not very much mistaken, to be not quite so mean. And I think, although I could be wrong, although I never am, that he has, thank goodness, learned his lesson. There's the wizard. Today, he's nothing like so mean as he used to be. And he doesn't keep his money in a box in the kitchen anymore. He spent it all on having his house mended and painted and made spick and span. And he's turning into quite a generous sort of fellow. Goodness, he's so generous. Do you know what he gave his brother last Christmas? Do you know? 2 pieces of coal. Mr. Men by Roger Hargreaves.